Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Hare Krishna. Here we are, Bhagavad-gita, here it is. Here is the name of our channel. And we are reading Bhagavad-gita, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And my name is Labanga Latika. And we are reading chapter 3, Karma Yoga, because we want to understand activity. Because Arjuna wanted to understand. So if Arjuna had understood everything, then we wouldn't have as much Bhagavad-gita as we have. But luckily for us, we had a lot of questions, and Krishna came back and replied to them. I'm reading text 29. Prakriter guna sammudha sajante guna karmashu tan akritsna vido mandan kritsna vina vichalayet. Bewildered by the modes of material nature, the ignorant fully engage themselves in material activities and become attached. But the wise should not unsettle them, although these duties are inferior due to the performance lack of knowledge. Purport. Persons who are unknowledgeable falsely identify with gross material consciousness and are full of material designations. This body is a gift of the material nature, and one who is too much attached to the bodily consciousness is called manda, or a lazy person, without understanding of spirit soul. Ignorant men think of the body as the self. They accept bodily connections with others as kinsmanship. The land in which the body is obtained is their object of worship, and they consider the formalities of religious rituals to be ends in themselves. So how is that lazy? We can see that people are very active, they are working very hard in this material world. And that's true, but the laziness comes when we're not prepared to take that step and ask questions about life, about the meaning of life. Who am I? Where do I come from? Where am I going? When we just follow that path of least resistance, of identifying with this material body. This material identification also creates all sorts of problems because it creates conflict. Ignorant men think of the body as the self. They accept bodily connections with others as kinsmanship. The land in which the body is obtained is their object of worship, and the formalities of religious rituals to be the goal, the meaning of religion. And when we do that, when we don't see further or deeper, if we don't see to the spirit soul inside, if we don't see how we are connecting to Krishna and how these bodily designations are I was going to say terrible, and maybe they are terrible, but I meant to say temporary. They are temporary. As long as we're in this body, we have this identification, and therefore we create friction, we create conflicts. Those who have different identifications, those who come from other countries or have other bodies, other religions, we fail to see the sameness. We fail to see that we're all persons, we're all individuals, we're all alive, which means we're all spirit souls actually. And if we perform religion, we fail to see that all religions actually come from God. And if God is God, he can't be many gods. That really doesn't make sense. Of course, in the Vedas and also in many other cultures, previously we had the position of the devas, which we call them demigods. They are powerful personalities in the universe, but they are not God. Everything doesn't come from them. Everything is not meant for them. They have their positions, they have their personalities, and we respect them very much, and we will hear maybe more about them. Not so much in the Bhagavad-gita, but in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the devas are appearing frequently. But the ignorance is when we don't understand how, being spirit souls, we are of the same nature, even if the externals are different, and how, being spiritual in nature, our actual goal in life should be spiritual, should not just be, rearranging this material environment so it fits us better. Because this material environment, it doesn't matter how perfect we can make it, it will all break down in the end, because the soul is eternal and everything material is temporary. Social work, nationalism, and altruism are some of the activities for such materially designated persons. Under the spell of such designations, they are always busy in the material field. For them, spiritual realization is a myth, and so they are not interested. Those who are enlightened in spiritual life, however, should not try to agitate such materially engrossed persons. Better to prosecute one's own spiritual activities silently. Such bewildered persons may be engaged in such primary moral principles of life as non-violence and similar materially benevolent work. Yes, so these principles are sometimes a little bit difficult to understand. What does it mean, Dharma? What does it mean, religion? What does it mean to do good work, to do good things? So the main divider here is consciousness, is knowledge. Because the first thing we have to understand is, who are we? If we are spirit soul in natures, this material world is not our home. And any material arrangement we can make is not going to be sufficient for self-realization or for fully solving the problems and finding satisfaction and happiness and ultimately benefiting anybody else. This doesn't mean we become callous and we just, because sometimes you get that idea about religious people, they don't care about this world, so anything can just happen, and then in the end they die, and then they go to God and they don't care about this world. This world is also Krishna's energy, and all the living entities we see around us, they are also God's children in that way, just like we are eternal spirit souls, part and parcel of Krishna. And a truly spiritually minded person does not like to see anybody suffer. But if we cannot take that first step of understanding who we are, then we won't be able to solve the problems. We will just it's like that story of the man who was he was walking on the road, and he had to go very far, and he had to carry with him a quite heavy bag. So first he would carry it in his right hand, and it became heavier and heavier. Then he would carry it in his left hand, and it became heavier and heavier. And he would carry it over his right shoulder, and then over his left shoulder. And sometimes, as you may see in India, they carry things on their head, and they walk very straight, and still it's very heavy. So this material existence, it's always full of problems, and if you solve one problem, you will have another problem. And this doesn't mean we want to be callous. We want to be fair and good and moral and responsible in this world. But we also have to realize that the ultimate solution to the problems is not to shuffle them around so they will be bearable for the moment, but is to find out, to come to that place where we can put that bag down. In the spiritual world, we don't need to carry any bags because everything we need is already there. So men who are ignorant cannot appreciate activities in Krishna consciousness, and therefore Lord Krishna advises us not to disturb them and simply waste valuable time. But the devotees of the Lord are more kind than the Lord because they understand the purpose of the Lord. Consequently, they undertake all kinds of risks, even to the point of approaching ignorant men to try to engage them in the acts of Krishna consciousness, which are absolutely necessary for the human being. Yes, because I guess up to this point you're all thinking, okay, if you shouldn't disturb people and speak about these spiritual things, why are you putting these films out here? Because actually I don't want to disturb anybody. Krishna is not disturbing anybody. Prabhupada is not disturbing anybody. But this knowledge of Krishna's Bhagavad-gita, it has to be available. So everybody can choose to accept it or not, to apply it or not. But if it's not available, then that choice isn't really there, is it? It is sometimes a little difficult to understand exactly how to balance these things, because this world is there for the dual purpose of allowing us to forget Krishna and allowing us to again remembering him. And the Vedic culture, the Vedic knowledge, the Vedic principles are set up in such a way that everybody can function on a certain level. But the main divider here, especially in the third chapter, is between activities, duties, if you will, dharma, that dharma which applies to the material body, which depends on your position in material society, and that dharma which is eternal because it is of the soul. And being here in this world, we have to find a somewhat workable balance. We don't just throw everything away and decide that I'm just going to be spiritual now. So what are you going to do when you get hungry? That is a very advanced level. That level is also achievable, but we may not start on that level. So the start is to understand I am not this body. And here, this is of course comes from Arjuna's question, Krishna, you're telling me that knowledge is superior to activities, and then you tell me to go out in this war, which is full of activities, terrible activities. Why are you saying that? So Krishna is speaking the third chapter here, where we get the insight on activity, on karma, from all sorts of angles. So karma, it can be very basic things we do in this world. Karma is the extended understanding, the result of those activities. And here, of course, Bhagavad-gita is somewhat brief. We will hear a little bit about the Varnashram society. We will hear a little bit about how people have different duties, and Prabhupada will go on to explain and comment on that a little further. We don't get a blueprint for creating a Varnashram society, but we do understand that in a Varnashram society, different persons have different duties, different dharma, due to their position in society, and that position is determined by their qualities and by their work. So they will be different. We will have somebody will be building roads, somebody will be managing cities, somebody is growing food, and somebody will be giving knowledge and establishing worship in the temples. All those functions are very important, and the people in the different groups, they will all have duties, but they may be somewhat different. Also depending on age, depending on so many things, we have different duties. But if by following these duties we fail to come to the understanding that I am not this body, I am the eternal servant of Krishna, and my highest dharma, my highest duty, my, that activity which is real, because we have this word sat, which means existence. So if something exists, then it is sat, and if it doesn't exist, it is asat. But sat means also that which continues to exist, because if it exists now and then tomorrow it's gone, it's not really existing, is it? Because it's not eternal. So that which is eternal, that is Krishna, that is us and our relationship, and that dharma which is eternal, it is our activities and duties and position in relationship to Krishna. If all that perfectly organized and understood and functional structure of the Varnashram society in accordance to the Vedic rules, if that fails to give us that understanding that we are actually Krishna's servants, then it is actually useless. And if somebody takes to Krishna consciousness without fully fulfilling all the duties in the Varnashram society, then there is no harm, because they have started the superior level of Sanatan Dharma, eternal religion. Of course, it is not a black and white. We are not throwing out the Varnashram baby with the bathwater, because Varnashram is an excellent way to organize society in such a way that everybody can fit in it. Everything that you need can be functional in that society, and at the same time the society will give a very good foundation for your spiritual life. So it is very good, and it is very important. But this sentence is still there. Such bewildered persons may be engaged in such primary moral principle of life as non-violence and similar materially benevolent work, this may not necessarily take us to Krishna consciousness. Whereas Krishna consciousness will, in the ultimate issue, maybe not when we approach Krishna consciousness, we won't really be there. But when we come to a certain level of Krishna consciousness, that will also include all the good qualities, all the moral and materially benevolent work. So finding that level where your own spiritual life does not create a disturbance for other people, but at the same time we don't want to give up on offering this this spiritual knowledge, this opportunity for spiritual realization. That is pretty much, and it's pretty easy to see the philosophy, see the principles, say this is very good, yes, we want to do this, but how to actually calibrate our lives in such a way that we are making the most possible spiritual advancement, that we are serving Krishna in the best possible way, pleasing to him, and that we will also benefit people in general in the best way. So we don't want to disturb anybody, but we also don't want to be part of their lack of the opportunity to take the Krishna consciousness. So we continue with our spiritual process, with our spiritual life, and we try to understand it with our intelligence. We try to not be lazy, but we try to study and apply Krishna's words in our lives. And at the same time, we can be a little patient. It's okay, we're not perfect. But Krishna is also there, and he will certainly help us in our endeavor when we turn ourselves in this life towards him. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for watching. We aim for updates every Tuesday and Friday. Please come back. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down there. We also have some links and information for you. And there is, of course, the subscribe button. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I'm a Hare Krishna, and I approve this message. Subscribe.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,